You too. Good evening, everybody. The president hangs in the balance this hour, so all the more does the nation's future. For years, the radical Dems have openly threatened to fundamentally change this nation and at the very least change the rules of the Constitution in their favor. So now it is that same party telling us that they will now play by the rules that they've quite obviously broken in a number of states. That they will count votes honestly, they say, in Democratic strongholds like Philadelphia, Atlanta, Detroit, and Las Vegas. Tonight, we will take a look at how closely they have followed that claim. Because of the closeness of this election and the charges of fraud on the part of the Democrats in so many close elections, it is inevitable that the country will be replicating scenes just like these in the year 2000, when the fate of the country hinged on tiny slivers of paper, back then referred to as hanging chads. The radical Dems, in coordination with the left-wing national media and their corporate masters, have, it seems, masterfully suffocated the voices of some 70 million Trump voters. The national media and their corporate masters, some of them are calling on the president to give up for the sake of national unity, you understand. When is the last time that we heard Walt Disney, Comcast, AT&T tell a Democrat to just, well, surrender in the interest of national unity? Or were they the ones who were silent as our national politics became ever more divisive? Well, here's House Speaker Nancy Pelosi today declaring Joe Biden the victor, all by herself.
How exciting it is to come before you today with Joe Biden having the tremendous mandate that he has, and that pretty soon the hyphen will be gone from Vice President to President-elect Joe Biden.
The president and his campaign have launched lawsuits, a lot of lawsuits, in many of those key battleground states, all pointing to election fraud as the sole reason for Joe Biden's sudden and so far unexplained surge in many of the vote counts, and many of the vote counts very, very late in the evening. We've shown you the video of poll workers boarding up vote counting sites in Detroit, and a Michigan state senator posted a video online showing a Republican poll observer being thrown out by election officials. Poll workers at the site, as you hear, cheering. And yes, we're even finding ballots hidden under rocks. 18 ballots, in fact, found by the Attorney General's office of the state of Arizona. It's just one example of how vulnerable the mail-in vote is to tampering. As we will cover here this evening, social media is continuing to suppress many of these stories from being reported to the public. The corporate left-wing national media already backing the Dems' position that Joe Biden is president-elect. To be clear, he is not the president-elect yet on Fox News or Fox Business. Our guests tonight to take all of this up and more include Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel, who is leading the Republican fight, Blexit founder Candace Owens, who is suing social media, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, who has spent so much time and effort that has resulted in warnings to the public for the past 6 months. Defense attorney Sidney Powell about her battle to help restore integrity to the vote count. Just the News editor-in-chief John Solomon and Pastor Robert Jeffress, all with us this hour. Weak-kneed rhinos, as we like to call them here, have already begun to acquiesce to the radical left and seek to persuade the president to accede as well. The Senators Mitt Romney, Pat Toomey, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie all say there is no evidence to support the president's claims of voter fraud. They are doing what typical rhinos do, telling everyone to be calm, to be polite, to avert your lying eyes and ignore the evidence before you. as the radical left use the left-wing national media and corporate America and the deep state, of course, to forward their agenda. They tell us to hold faith in beltway institutions like the Department of Justice and the FBI, organizations at the center of the large-scale effort by the deep state to take down President Trump for the past 4 years. Just look at the man who was in charge of the FBI during much of that time. Yes, that's James Comey, public servant, wearing a Biden-Harris shirt and holding a Biden mug. There seems to be absolutely no question about who these people are and for whom they have worked throughout. Thankfully for the American people, they have a man in the White House who is fighting for them and somebody who is standing up for the rule of law and the integrity of our elections. In a statement today, President Trump vowed this, quote, "We believe the American people deserve to have full transparency into all vote counting and election certification, and that this is no longer about any single election. This is about the integrity of our entire election process. From the beginning, we have said that all legal ballots must be counted, and all illegal ballots should not be counted. Yet we've met resistance for this basic principle by Democrats at every turn. We will pursue this process through every aspect of the law to guarantee the American people have confidence in our government. I will never give up fighting for you and our nation." Joining me now by phone, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Ronna, good to have you with us. We know that you are engaged in a massive battle to bring some light to what is darkness right now, and that is the lack of transparency over the vote counting. Where are we tonight? How do you feel about the prospects for the Republican Party and President Trump in this contest?
Thank you, Lou. I'm actually in Georgia tonight. We've deployed 4 legal teams to Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan. We are collecting statements from individuals who saw irregularities, who were part of vote counting, and we are going to turn those into affidavits and take legal action as necessary in Michigan. We've discovered a whistleblower who was an election official who was told to backdate ballots. They have alleged that everybody working in Detroit was told to do this practice for ballots that were empty, to backdate them to November 2nd, November 3rd, so they would count. So these are the types of allegations that are very serious and have implications on election integrity, and the media should be pursuing them with us.
And is the media, how curious are the media that have been aligned with Joe Biden's campaign throughout?
Not very concerned. We did have a press conference today in Michigan. And the other thing we've seen, Lou, and this only happens in Democrat-run counties like Philadelphia, like Detroit, where our poll watchers who are trained, who are allowed to be there legally to observe the election so they can go assure people that it was done in a fair manner, were removed systematically from Detroit. Some of them have put statements forward, and I've read hundreds of them today, saying that as spoiled ballots were put in one box, they would look back and they would be returned to the good ballot box. All these types of issues we ran into. You just saw in Detroit, election workers were cheering as our poll watchers were removed from what they are legally allowed to do. The padlocks are put on doors, their windows were boarded up. These types of things do not ensure confidence in election integrity. So we're asking for transparency, we're asking for patience, and allow us to pursue these irregularities and then investigate them.
Well, right now, effectively, the vote count is continuing. It hasn't been put on hold, but at the same time, Joe Biden is leading. He's 6 votes short by the media's count. What I'm stunned by is that many people don't realize we're waiting here for a media declaration that he's president-elect. It is really an expression, by the way, of the corporate owners of those media outlets and networks who would be making that decision. We've reached a pretty sorry state in our electoral process, where corporate America are the ones deciding when we have a president-elect. Don't you think? And don't you think that also should be changed?
It should. I mean, the best example of that is the early call for Arizona. Arizona had more votes out, votes that could absolutely tip the balance towards President Trump. And yet when Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia had significant margins in favor of President Trump, they refused to call those states for President Trump. So it's a total hypocrisy in how this is done. Now, there's going to be a recount in Georgia. There's going to be a recount in Wisconsin. There are a significant amount of provisional ballots left in Pennsylvania. Arizona still is counting votes, and President Trump continues to narrow that margin. So this is not over yet, and we're going to pursue this, and we will pursue every single irregularity.
Do you believe that the Supreme Court, where are you legally turning next? What is it you're planning to have happen, hoping will happen in the ensuing days here?
Well, I think we've got to get through the canvassing process, which states have, and then the certification process. Today in Michigan, for example, through the canvassing process, they found an error where 2,000 ballots were double counted for Democrats. That is a problem. That's why you
because
have
of a software problem.
A clerical error.
Well, that was because of a software, Ronna.
There was another software problem.
Was that the software problem? Okay.
It was a different county in Antrim County where 6,000 votes were misassigned to Joe Biden. The congressman in that district noticed it. We found the software anomaly, and now we know that 47 other counties use that same software. So we're going to audit that. So right now we're in an evidence-gathering phase. That's why we have a hotline, and that we're asking people to let us know at 888-503-3526. If they have any of these irregularities that they saw, we'll pursue them, and then we will pursue legal action and let these recounts take place and let the counting finish in states like Georgia that still hasn't seen all their military ballots be counted.
All right. Ronna McDaniel, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Ronna McDaniel, the chair of the Republican National Committee. Up next, best-selling author Candace Owens with a message for social media oligarchs who are censoring conservative voices, especially like hers. Stay with us.
And the fact checkers, which is just some Supreme Court that decided by themselves, that were not elected by the people, they're activists for the left, and shut down your speech when they don't like it because of safety, right? Safety, we have to take away your opinion.
We'll take up Facebook, Twitter, social media's tyrannical censorship, the authoritarian Silicon Valley. Candace Owens joins us right after these quick messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. Social media censors are at it again, or still at it, this time blocking a number of hashtags that highlight the radical Dems' efforts to steal this election. Facebook is actively blocking the hashtag Stop the Steal. Mark Zuckerberg trying to stop the spread of what Facebook calls misinformation about election rigging from reaching the American people. He has also censored, actually it's Jack Dorsey of Twitter, 30% of the president's tweets since Election Day, a third. Our next guest is a conservative activist. She's suing Facebook's third-party fact-checkers over the censorship of her social media posts, and she has quite a few of them. Joining us now is Candace Owens. She's the founder of the Blexit Foundation, author of the New York Times bestseller, Blackout: How Black America Can Make Its Second Escape from the Democrat Plantation. It is great to have you with us, Candace. And social media has reached a level of they have been absolutely authoritarian, but now they have taken it to a new level in which they are unafraid of censoring the President of the United States and you. Tell us about the lawsuit.
Well, I can tell you, first and foremost, you are correct. The type of censorship that we are seeing in America right now is what you would expect under a communist regime, not in a free country. They're starting to censor opinions. They're starting to censor doctors. They're starting to censor people that are telling about their real experiences. A woman was censored for talking about how her husband died when they had mislabeled it as COVID-19, and she was censored. My lawsuit began when I was censored for posting an article that was written by a doctor in The Spectator, Dr. John Lee, in which he discussed how they were calculating COVID-19 deaths. Now, this is a doctor. Facebook decided to rate it false, and they decided that their doctor was better than my doctor. So we have a doctor that disagrees, and I guess that doctor becomes supreme, and the other doctor must be censored. We saw a lot of this happening during the COVID-19, media freakout, where they said anything that goes against a narrative that they liked needed to stay. So I looked into the fact checkers, a brief search, and I determined that leadstories.com, who had censored my page and who are main fact checkers on Facebook, is actually run by a man who worked for CNN. His name is Alan Duke. He worked for them for 26 years and then left and magically started a fact-checking firm in 2016 after Donald Trump won. And I instantly knew that it was time to sue and get behind and start fact-checking these fact-checkers.
How does it make you feel when you hear people saying to the president, not to his face, but saying he should quit the race and do the right thing, simply drop the lawsuits and the recounts and just let it go for the national unity? What do you make of that?
Well, what I make of it is that it doesn't infuriate me. It makes me sad because I don't think people understand. They can't see past their red anger and their hatred for Donald Trump. This is so much bigger than Donald Trump. We are talking about the integrity of a U.S. election. We are talking about mass-scale fraud, and people are being censored. Once upon a time, you used to have the media, Lou, that would back the people, would tell the people stories. You have people all over social media talking about how their ballots were stolen. Instead, now we have media members and journalists that act like they're above the people, and they tell people, you shouldn't be saying anything. You're a conspiracy theorist. You need to be shut down. And they're on the side of the establishment. And that breaks my heart because we are trending very quickly into the direction of a socialist country. Lou, in what country would you imagine if I said to you, we're not allowed to open our businesses. We're being told when we can see our loved ones. People are not allowed to see their loved ones when they're dying. They're forced to wear masks. The schools are being shut down. The churches are being shut down. Does that sound like a free country to you? Or does that sound like how things might operate under Joseph Stalin? We have a problem in this country, and people are allowing this to happen and don't realize that we have opened the door to things that we won't be able to close it to in the future.
I was talking to someone today, and she said that she was feeling sad. She was on the verge of tears, talking about all that the president has done. And that is a sentiment that I am sure is felt clear across the country by people who reflect, whether the Democrats, Republicans, Independents. This man has made concrete historic achievements in the interest of the American people. Has he benefited enormously minorities? Absolutely. He's benefited everyone in this country, and minorities who did, by the way, raise their vote participation level in this election for the Republican candidate, largely in part because of your efforts and others who are awakening to the reality that we had a president that said he was going to be the president of all the people and who's delivered on it. In these most recent unemployment numbers, we see, again, minorities benefiting, just as he said they would, closing the gap with white workers. And this is critically important. And all of this is on the line, and as you say, for a candidate who is socialist in his agenda and platform. To have that stolen from Americans is maddening. It's wrong. And I praise this president for having the courage to stand up against all of the politically correct forces who think he should simply avert his eyes, as so many have, from what is obvious irregularities and fraud in too many jurisdictions in this country. Your thoughts as we wrap up here?
I completely agree, and let me not mince words here. President Donald J. Trump is an American hero. He will go down as an American hero. He will be remembered as an American hero, and he's not done yet with his heroic feats. Fighting this in every single corner of American society is exactly what he needs to be doing, and exactly what he's pledged to do for the American people. He is a person that stands on the platform for all of the forgotten men in America, men and women in America, myself included. He has had tremendous success in Black America, increased despite the rhetoric of being libeled and smeared as a racist every single day by the left stream media. He's someone who has increased his support amongst Black Americans in the face of all of these vicious lies. I commend him. I stand firmly with him, and I stand firmly with the American people, and we will demand election integrity.
Absolutely. Candace, thanks so much for all that you do and all you will be doing. We appreciate it. Candace Owens. We'd like to hear your thoughts about all of this. Share your comments. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight, so long as I am permitted that privilege. Up next, where is William Barr, the Attorney General? Where is his Department of Justice? Still silent on vote fraud? Charges all around the country. Just the News Editor-in-Chief John Solomon joins us with much more on all that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Breaking news we've heard from the Justice Department. The department saying it's looking into 3,000 mail-in ballots that the Nevada Republican Party say were cast illegally. And they have called on the Justice Department with a criminal referral. Yet the Attorney General, the FBI Director, remain silent. The only comment we've received from the Department of Justice is a statement from spokesperson Carrie Kupek, in which she said the Department of Justice pursues all actionable information it receives and, as is always the case, encourages anyone who suspects a federal crime to report it to their local FBI office. That's what we need. John Solomon's Just the News is partnering with other news organizations to independently review election reporting in tight battleground races. And breaking on Just the News this hour, a software glitch that gave more votes to Joe Biden in Michigan's northwestern state of Antrim County. It's been fixed, we're told. The glitch caused Biden to lead in the county by about 3,000 votes, but revised totals show the president with a 2,500 vote lead now. Well, joining us is Just the News Editor-in-Chief John Solomon, author of Fallout, Nuclear Bribes, Russian Spies, and Washington Lies that Enriched the Clinton and Biden Dynasties. Good to have you with us. Let me ask you this first, John. Your thoughts about this software glitch and how much of an effect it might have broadly across the state.
It's one of the things that we've been looking at as part of our review. So there are about 36 other municipalities and counties in the Midwest that use this software. So we're interviewing each of those county clerks tonight to see if any other anomalies. We're also comparing the 2020 election results to 2016, which is how this first glitch was found, to see if any states look to be inverted or wrong, any counties look to be inverted and wrong. And so, but the fact that it got corrected is good. The fact that it got caught and corrected through these reviews that we and others are doing is a good thing. And also, I think a good thing, the Justice Department and the FBI aren't talking. That was James Comey's FBI that liked to leak. But they are speaking loudly with actions. Mm-hmm. There are multiple investigations going on in the FBI and the Justice Department looking at voter fraud. You just mentioned one, the Las Vegas one. I can confirm for you from both local officials and FBI and Justice Department officials that in Michigan, a whistleblower, a City of Detroit election worker, has come forward to claim that she and other workers were asked to backdate ballots that had come in beyond the deadline. This is a very active investigation, and it's a sign that, while there's not a lot of press releases and talking going on, actionable things that are coming into the FBI and Justice Department are being turned around very quickly as this election nears its end.
It's really, there's a real cross current here of doubt and concern for most Americans, because this FBI, this Department of Justice, are the same that were co-conspirators in the assault on a president and the effort to block his agenda and to overthrow him, and fed the American public all sorts of, frankly, vicious, and horrific lies in so doing. We showed James Comey with his FBI mug, and his Biden mug and his Biden-Harris T-shirt. Chris Wray was a close associate of his. So was Robert Mueller. We know the tone, we know the temperament, we know the direction of their ideologies. This is not a salve that is likely to be very effective right now with this FBI. This is the same FBI, by the way, not commenting about these elections, who were quick to confirm an investigation into a convoy of Trump supporters who were escorting a Biden-Harris bus out of the state of Texas. I mean, this is you have to put me down as one who thinks this FBI is rotten to the core, and the Department of Justice.
I got you something to make you smile, maybe. Let me give you something to try to make you smile on this, Lou.
All right.
I am tell next week, although it's terribly belated. It's post-election. It's terribly belated. But next week, I think we will see some public action in the Russia collusion case, something that was pending that now will take place. I know it's not satisfying to know what happened after the election, but to see some form of justice, to see some form of activity in the John Durham Barr investigation, I think will be good news for those who want accountability and complete transparency. I think there'll be an event next week that'll give us some visibility for the first time, and I think that's good. Meanwhile, whether the FBI or Justice Department does its job, there are lots of good work going on right now looking at voter fraud issues, getting it to the public, forcing the FBI, the Justice Department, local and state officials to do that, to do their job. They may not go out and find it, but if it's brought to them, they're gonna look at it. I think that's one of the good pieces of news here. And my organization, many others, are doing really great work on the ground, and we're finding really serious things, and we're going to get them to the public's attention, event by event, concern by concern. So we'll get the public informed, even with all of the road blocking and censorship that goes on in the American public today.
There are all sorts of paths forward here in producing evidence and investigating and bringing the truth forward. But it's important to remember the reason that is such a challenge is because people in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, nearly all of these five states are Democrat-led. They are, in the case of Pennsylvania, they also have a Republican-led legislature. There is no excuse for what has happened here, and that pursuit of truth is difficult because they are purposely keeping secret the vote count. They are denying public access to that, and forget public access, they won't even permit Republican vote watchers. Don't you think it's a safe statement to make that there should be a presumption of corruption here, because otherwise what would be the purpose?
Well, you've talked about the deep state, the permanent bureaucracy, and of course we saw that the Justice Department, the State Department, the FBI, and the intelligence community during the Russia scandal. You're seeing a different form of the deep state at these local election offices around the state. They're playing games or hiding things under shell. But at the end of the day, we're going to get the data. We are going to get it exposed. I think the American people need to dig in for a long review on this election. This was a storm coming for a long time.
It's a storm coming, but we need to know, in order to preserve the integrity of the election, we need 100%. To know before there is a temptation to declare a president-elect other than Donald Trump. Will that happen?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, the media is going to have to be responsible. They haven't had a good record on it. Yeah, the media hasn't been very responsible, but let's see how.
I got about as much faith in that as I do the FBI and the Department of Justice, John.
Well earned.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. We're coming I'm sorry, Joe, we got to run. We're coming right back with Tom Fitton and Sidney Powell. Stay with us. Breaking news, Utah's Attorney General is joining President Trump's legal fight for an honest election. Sean Reyes today announced he's taking a personal leave as Attorney General of Utah to assist the Trump campaign. Also breaking at this hour, Joe Biden has inexplicably had a major gain in his vote totals since Election Day. In Pennsylvania, for example, President Trump had an almost 700,000 vote lead on election night. This afternoon, the president He's trailing Biden by 14,000 votes. In Michigan, the president leading by 324,000 votes on election night. Now, Biden is leading by 146,000. A similar story in Georgia, where the president's election night lead of 118,000 is now a deficit of 1,500 votes. And so the story goes. Well, joining us now, Tom Fitton. He's the president of Judicial Watch. Sidney Powell, General Michael Flynn's defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, best-selling author. I want to say, first of all, thank you both for being here, and I appreciate it. Sidney, let's start with this election process. We just heard from John Solomon that the FBI indeed is being diligent, is involved, and we all hope he is exactly right. Your thoughts first about the knowledge now that the Justice Department is involved in this review of the election.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I think there are any number of things they need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President Trump, just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Tom Fitton, as you listen to Sidney, that sounds like a strong case for a straightforward allegation of fraud. The two programs that she just mentioned, I'm going to ask you right now, have you ever heard of them? Because I had not heard of them.
No, I mean, there have been noises about it on the internet, but I don't know anything beyond what Sidney's reporting now. I go back to the numbers you reported at the beginning of the segment. The president was winning on Tuesday. Right. He's not winning now. And he's not winning now as a result of a process that the voters can't have confidence in, the state legislatures can't have confidence in, in my view, the courts can't have confidence in. So the question is, are the courts going to undo what went on? I don't know. But the state legislatures in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, perhaps Arizona, they now have an opportunity to make a stand on behalf of the rule of law. Are they going to endorse what went on this week, or are they going to appoint a clean slate of electors that supports President Trump? That could be the next battle. And I would think that activists interested in this issue, and if you're concerned watching this, start talking to your state legislators. And I started asking where Congress is, because Congress, in the end, is going to be the judge of the Electoral College votes. And if I were in Congress, I'd be telling these states, you better keep up on, you better be honest here, because we're not going to accept your votes if your election is a sham.
Well, Sidney, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated, probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
That's called intervention in our elections, irrespective of, I guess if they were Russia or China, we'd refer to them as meddling. But it's intervention, and it's also crooked as hell, rigging this election no matter the jurisdiction, whether it's Michigan, Georgia, wherever it might be. What can we do about it? Because the Department of Justice, I mean, if there's evidence of that program, why not just turn it over to the Justice Department and say, and go to the courts and say, this has got to stop now. Here is the way in which it was done.
Well, we've been trying to get their attention, and we're going to try even harder, and we'll have to put it in a federal lawsuit, apparently, and get as much of it out as we possibly can. We have some excellent witnesses on the issue. But this is coup 5.0, Lou. I mean, there was no reason to think that the Democratic operatives who spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, taking us through a special counsel operation for 2 years, trying an impeachment hoax, the apocalypse hoax, the obstruction hoax, wouldn't go so far as to create every means of voter fraud they could come up with to steal this election. That's exactly what happens. The president must fight back now in every way, shape, or form. We cannot let this republic be stolen by the Democratic operatives who want to destroy the republic and make it a socialist country where they continue to line their pockets with these backdoor global deals like the Biden laptop from hell exposes.
Well, Sidney, I think you're exactly right about that not happening. Let's turn, Tom Fitton, you've pointed out in our discussions that these legislatures are Republican-controlled. Who can take that message to them, and precisely how likely is it that they would be receptive to a clean slate of electors who would represent, say, the state of Pennsylvania? That's a Republican legislature, and stand up for the integrity of elections and support the president.
Well, you know, the focus from the media and activists and regular voters and citizens need to be brought to bear here. Certainly the information we're learning from campaign activists on the ground, independent journalists like John Solomon, the work of Judicial Watch should also be brought to bear. I mean, we knew going into this election in Pennsylvania, Lou, there were 800,000 extra names in the rolls in Pennsylvania. Nevada County has 154,000 inactive names on the rolls. Clark County, Nevada, I mean. So we've got this problem of dirty election rolls, mailing and balloting being allowed to draw from them.
And apparently a Republican Party that doesn't demand that those rolls be cleaned up. I mean, that's crazy. Could you put up that graphic again, please, folks? I want everybody to see what they're looking at, because this is really very important, what Tom's talking about. The control of both chambers of the legislature in these states that are critical right now in deciding who the next president will be: Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. They must play a role in this to preserve the integrity, just as Tom Fitton is urging. And Sidney Powell, what you're breaking here tonight is extraordinary as well. We've got to go. We're at that point. But thank you both for everything you're doing for the country and for the president. We appreciate it. Thanks so much. Up next, how evangelical voters can help in the fight for a fair election. They'd better help quick. We're joined by Pastor Robert Jeffress right after this quick break. A lot of quickness here. Stay with us.